Since half of the Formula 1 season has already been cancelled and the other half hangs in the balance, why not just create your own season? My pick would be the original Grand Prix by the immortal Jeff Crammond. Originally released in 1991, this was the de facto Grand Prix racing simulator. For added laughs, just make sure you rename all the drivers and teams as you see fit, turn off all damage, and then proceed to smash all of the bastards off the track as you work your way through your personal reenactment of the 1991 racing season. Once done, install Grand Prix 2 and do the same but in SVGA graphics this time around. Are you in isolation? Have you been stuck in your apartment or house and not been allowed out for fresh air? Wow, spare a thought for Edward Carnby, well-dressed supernatural investigator who was locked inside a particularly creepy house way back in 1992 in the groundbreaking Alone in the Dark by Infogrames. Like you, he had to spend time wandering around looking for all sorts of gadgets and items to keep him amused and entertained. He also struggled to maintain 2 meters social distancing from all these other degenerates that lived in the house. Though he was more likely to perish from bite wounds rather than respiratory complications, the sense of dread of being imprisoned within 4 walls is somewhat familiar these days. Now spare a thought for the single millennials who prior to the lockdown were tearing it up on Tinder, swiping right and copulating like rabbits. Wow, no more casual loose shagging around for them these days. However, they better not lose any of their suave interpersonal skills, so I highly recommend that they play through all of the Leisure Suit Larry games, take notes on his best lines and store them in your Google Drive for when the epidemic passes. It's your best opportunity to truly perfect your pickup game. However, if you get really horny and need a release, then why not try your hand at strip poker and try your best to see some boobage, left hand mouse, right hand fap. Alternatively, if you want to experience running a healthcare system during a time of crisis, then why not try out one of Maxis's slightly lesser known real world simulations, Sim Health. Released in 1994, simulates the US healthcare system. Here you get to try running the US healthcare system, and much like in real life, it's extremely complex, particularly difficult and devoid of humour. At least you get to see what happens when you implement Medicare across the board. See if you can create something that would be able to stand up to the current virus du jour. Whilst being in a lockdown, it's probably a good idea to take the time to upskill, just in case this is in fact the end of the world. As such, I suggest we all play through Fallout 1 and 2 to get some pointers on how the world may look like if old Donald J decides to just nuke everyone and you miraculously survive the nuclear winter. These RPG classics will also enable you to learn how to identify weird mutants and tell whether they are friendly or hostile. You will pick up tips on the best weapons to use in a post-apocalyptic time. You will also be able to roleplay out whether you want to be a good citizen or just a general backstabbing motherfucker. So there you have a handful of retro games to get you through some dark days ahead. Remember, I love my old PCs and that stellar time period from the mid-90s to early 2000s. If you've already worked your way through these though, then shout in the comments and I will recommend a few more. On a serious note, please all take care. Any virus that can fill your lungs with pus and stop you breathing is frankly something we all need to avoid. Stay home, play games, and keep safe.